So, 2.2 rerun banners have been announced, and for the first time in 7 months, our favorite Pyro Walnut is coming back for her first rerun banner. In this video, I'll be covering some general preparation tips and frequently asked questions that help jumpstart your investment a few weeks before her banner drops. The structure will be very similar to the previous video covering preparation for Tartag's rerun. Those of you who already own Hu Tao but are looking to grab potentially an early constellation, I'll go over whether or not it's really worth as well. This will be a precursor to an updated complete guide to Hu Tao that will follow my usual guide videos and be a complete breakdown to her kit. This one is more of a preliminary crash course on how to prepare for her arrival. Let's begin, shall we? First off, a quick section on her material preparation. No rush here, since we have a few weeks before the second half of 2.2. For level 80 and level 90, you'll need 26 to 46 Primo Geovisha boss materials, 108 to 168 silk flowers, around 30 of each whopper flower nectar, 300 to 420 Gay Mora. For talent materials, about 20 more of each whopper flower nectar, Luya Diligence Talents books, Foul Legacy shards from Tartag Weekly for level 7 and higher. In my opinion, cost-efficient investment stops at 80 out of 80. A setting to 80 out of 90 is worth for the crit damage increase, and for her specifically, leveling to 90-90 is moderately worth for the base HP increase because she's an HP scaling DPS. If you guys don't know, for leveling a character, the base attack actually doesn't shoot up too much, but the base HP does. For her talents, both her normal attack and elemental skill are very important. I would prioritize the normal attack first, and then burst would be last priority in my opinion. For her normal attack and elemental skill, they are both worth investing to level 8 or higher. The burst is worth investing to level 8 or higher if you wish to try out an esports nuke Hu Tao. Alright, for her weapons. So the polearm industry hasn't really changed too much for on-field DPSers. We have the catch that was released recently, but that's more suitable for our Pyro Chef and not our Walnut. Let's dive into our most suitable options and my personal recommendations, leaving the numbers and math to the complete guide later. So, 3-star White Tassel. Very strong, easily refinable 3-star weapon that provides a crit rate secondary stat and a normal attack spamming passive. For Hu Tao, this is actually one of the most cost-efficient weapons to invest for her, since she doesn't really rely on the base attack from weapons, but instead receives attack from her elemental skill HP conversion. 3-star Black Tassel. If you want to bully the slimes, I guess. 4-star suitable weapons. Of the craftables, the 4-star Star Glitter is probably the most usable option for her, but it's not the most efficient choice. The secondary stat of energy recharge really falls flat for Hu Tao since her playstyle generally doesn't really focus on consistent burst spamming. 4-star Black Cliff Pole. I consider this the default F2P option since, as we mentioned, the craftable from all regions are not the greatest for her. It's a generic crit damage stat stick with an attack scaling passive from killing enemies, and it also looks pretty good on her. 4-star Deathmatch. The Battle Pass polearm is a fantastic crit rate stat stick for Hu Tao. It's a lower base attack weapon, which again doesn't affect her HP scaling, and a small universal attack boost via passive. Recommended for really easy to build Hu Tao because it has 33.5 crit rate, which is even higher at level 90. 4-star Lithic Spear. This was only available for a limited time, but with high refinement and 3 to 4 Luya party members, including herself, Lithic is another nice stat stick for her, mainly for the crit rate passive boost. So you can basically view this one as kind of like a gacha version of the Battle Pass Deathmatch. Grants higher base attack with more attack percent and also up to 28% crit rate at refinement 5. 4-star Dragon's Bane. This is in my opinion the strongest option for a reverse vaporized Hu Tao build, granting additional damage to hydropyro affected enemies, as well as elemental mastery secondary for increased vaporized damage. It's harder to build around though, since the weapon provides no crit rate or crit damage, but has a stronger damage cap with the 36% additional damage and elemental mastery boost to vaporize. For our 5-star weapons, out of the 4 polearm choices in the game, they all have different power levels for Hu Tao. So the Engulfing Lightning is a very wonky choice for her, providing not much benefit besides attack conversion from ER. This is really only meant for Raiden Shogun. Skyward Spine. In my opinion, this is a mediocre choice. It has a slight 8% crit rate boost at refinement 1, decent attack speed boost, and the vacuum blades from the normal and charge attack procs that do additional minor damage. The energy recharge for the Skyward Spine on the secondary stat doesn't really do much for her. So, the Primordial Jade Winged Spear. It's a powerful choice with the highest base attack at 674 at level 90 and a crit rate secondary stat at 22.1%. This weapon maximizes its damage once it hits 7 stacks, granting an additional 12% damage dealt increase. Can't go wrong with this weapon, but it takes a little time to ramp up for full damage output. And finally, the Staff of Homa. The best in slot option with perfect synergy with her kit, Released in tandem with Hu Tao's initial release, his weapon providing 66.2 crit damage on his secondary stat, 608 base attack which is in the middle of the pack, and a perfect passive synergy. Increases her HP from 20 to 40% depending on refinement, and grants an attack bonus which increases below 50% HP for the wielder. And for Hu Tao, if you guys know, one of her talents, when Hu Tao's HP is equal or below 50%, her power damage bonus is increased by 33%. So, of these 5-star weapons, in my opinion, I'd stick with the Jade Spear or the Homa. Otherwise, I'd move to one of the 4-star options like Deathmatch or Dragon's Bane or whatever else I mentioned. So, on the subject of artifacts, Hu Tao has a common question. Mr. Streamer, I have Shimenawa's pieces lying around from farming for Raiden Shogun. What's the difference compared to for Crimson? Now, this comes down to mental sanity farming for artifacts. Farming Crimson Winch Domain is often a painful experience for most players. The dungeon provides artifacts designed around pyro units, yet the domain itself is very anti-pyro unit, with pyro slimes and a pyro totem in the middle granting that annoying damage reduce aura to enemies. So in Hu Tao's case, Shimenawa's is actually a very efficient build path for her, aiming for a 4-piece set for that massive normal charge plunge gain. And very commonly, players will be running Hu Tao with our overworked water boy, Xingqiu, and one of his strongest artifact sets now is 4-piece emblem set. So, unless you've already got a 4-piece Crimson set farm for her, or that domain is really easy for you to clear, I wouldn't hesitate to farm a Shimenawa set for Hu Tao, and hopefully also gain some solid emblem pieces for your supports. Yes, Shimenawa's does sacrifice that 15 energy for the burst, but a majority of Hu Tao's damage comes from her normal charge spam, so it's not as much of a detriment to her than other characters. Main stat pieces should be fairly straightforward, running an HP percent, pyro damage, and crit damage mask. Crit damage mask if you can maintain 60 plus crit rate with a weapon like Deathmatch, and substat rolls, or a C6 Hu Tao esports nuke build. Alright, quick crash course about Constellations, because with the rerun here, some of you may be interested in some front-loaded ones. And we'll use this discussion to give my opinion on the most common question I've received regarding Hu Tao. So, C1 Hu Tao plus a non-Homa weapon versus C0 Hu Tao plus Staff of Homa weapon. Essentially, would I recommend pulling for C1 or pulling for Staff of Homa? Now, her Constellation 1, while her elemental skill is active, her charge attacks cost 0 stamina. So before we get into this, let's get this out of the way. C1 is her most valuable constellation, besides C6. C2 is a small blood boss and damage boost, as well as the burst applying the burn. C3 and C5 are +3 levels to the skill and burst, and C4 is a party-only crit rate buff that doesn't affect her. So, back to C1. So the main benefit is the autopilot charge dash spam playstyle. Without C0, spamming normal charge dash completely annihilates your stamina bar. With C1, this can be done effectively during her skill duration. Now, Staff of Homa, compared to the popular Deathmatch or Dragon's Bane, is on average about a 20% damage boost at equal level and refinement. So the thing about Hu Tao's playstyle is that there exists the normal charge jump cancel, which preserves the stamina, but doesn't have the iframe from dashing. This playstyle requires a bit more attention and is less autopilot than the dash cancel. So in my opinion, between Homa and C1 Hu Tao, it really depends on how comfortable you are with jump canceling. If jump canceling is super annoying and you'd rather just dash cancel for your playstyle, then C1 Hu Tao is going to feel a lot better to play than a weapon upgrade. If, however, you've mastered jump canceling, then Staff of Homa C0 Hu Tao is likely going to give you more mileage. My personal recommendation is going for Staff of Homa over C1 Hu Tao because the signature weapon has a gorgeous aesthetic feel for her, and the stat gain is substantial enough to be worth over a constellation. If consulting the pull count, a limited character pity is better than epitomized fate for weapons, since the character pity carries over, but epitomized fate resets for every weapon banner. So hopefully that answers the most common question for her. And finally for C6, this is her Undying Tryndamere ability for 10 seconds. If you're aiming for this constellation on her rerun, enjoy perma-life support, 10% crit rate, 300% crit damage Hu Tao memes. So, for team building, Hu Tao is really greedy for Waterboy. Xingqiu, especially at C6, enables guaranteed reverse vaporized procs on every single Hu Tao charge attack. Yes, you heard that right. Hu Tao's charge attack is not bound by normal internal cooldown rules, which massively increases her DPS ceiling with the right supports. So, if you're committing to Hu Tao, you really would like to pair her with Xingqiu, who is still currently the most consistent Hydro applier for her. Though Mona and Kokomi have consistent Hydro applications as well, their off-field abilities have a limited area range, unfortunate for Hu Tao, since her charge attack has her dash everywhere. Xingqiu's burst follows the character and activates on every normal attack, which is perfect for Hu Tao's rotation, since every charge attack is preceded by a single normal attack. Besides this deadly duo, Melt Hu Tao with Kaya also works, but it's less consistent spam DPS than Xingqiu's reverse vaporized composition. And finally, for fun knockback memes, Overload Hu Tao does exist. Regarding the Hu Tao Xingqiu synergy, we'll leave the details to the updated complete guide. And those are my general preparation tips around Hu Tao. We covered Ascension stuff, weapons, artifacts, team building, and an extra section on Constellations. This hopefully will be a shorter but solid lead-in to the actual updated guide video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free and really supports the video and my channel. I regularly post a mixture of guides and personable content to the channel, so if you like what you see here, feel free to check out my other content. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.